Awkward pause.
Glad Carl got here on time. I almost sent out a search party 15 minutes late to the last one. There we go. My relic of what once was. This will be worth something someday.
Someday.
Someday. It'll be a collector's item.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Awesome. All right, let's get started then. Cool. So thanks again to everybody for attending the AMA with the Biconomy team. Here we have Ahmed, we have Aniket, and we have Sachin from the Biconomy side. We're going to chat all about sort of how things got kicked off, the history a little bit, of course, what is Biconomy and then the technology that it enables, and basically everything in between. So looking forward to this conversation, and of course, a big thank you to the team. This is the first time we've had the opportunity to work so closely with them. And we're really appreciative of the support. We can't do this thing without our sponsors and everyone kind of bearing the cost on behalf of the attendees. So big thank you for doing so and for coming to the event and for the first time. I know it's a big jump, and we're really thankful to have you on board.
Absolutely. No, we we're really enjoying it actually. So yeah, really pumped to be a part of it.
Awesome. Cool. So let's maybe start. I start these sort of a little bit early on in the process of like kind of the history, if you will. Love to kind of get a sense of sort of what everybody was working on, before Biconomy and what you're working on now. Would love to kind of know a little bit of like the origin story, if you will, about how we got to creating this, and a little bit, I guess, the before times before we talk about the current times, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, of course, absolutely. So, I'll sort of start off, and me and Aniket knew each other for like a couple of years. He managed to get to know Sachin, which he introduced me to around the beginning of 2018. I was actually working for a Dubai-based VC back at the end of 2018. They're very traditional e-commerce tech. They've done sort of plus $1 billion exits, and they were just interested in blockchain. So I was helping them with investing in blockchain and tokens. And it was really at the end of 2018 when I was working there. That's when me, Sachin, and Aniket came together. We wanted to do something in the space, and we thought, staking is cool. Why not like run staking as a service? We invested in Tezos. We liked the idea of proof of stake. We thought, let's go with it and see how it goes. And so 3 months of sort of being a baker and running nodes, we sort of realized that, hey, wait a minute, all right, we've secured the network, but like, what's next, right? Where are these applications? Okay, and now there are some applications we saw. Where is the actual adoption? Where are the users? And so we really asked ourselves the question, okay, why are there no users? And what are the main inhibitors affecting mainstream adoption? And so we sort of did a research, we spoke to a couple of developers, a couple of applications out there, and sort of realized that, hey, wait a minute, user experience, not many people are addressing. Hello?
I think you're coming back now.
Like cut off a bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah,
I think when you're talking about the user experience.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So user experience and developer experience were sort of two really big issues that we saw. And so we saw, many companies really replicating lots of infrastructure in-house that they didn't need to. Most of which, which we saw were a concept called meta transactions, whereby, in very simple layman terms, where the end users are subsidized in terms of gas fees. The developers pay gas fees on behalf of the end users. And so we saw that, multiple companies were building out this infrastructure in-house to basically enable more adoption for their applications. And we thought, hey, this is actually a really interesting concept, but one which is still not yet optimized. that's sort of been made to a really clear, compelling infrastructure service. And so, for us, we thought, hey, wait a minute, how about, we actually build this, piece of infrastructure out and sort of just, give it away as an API or SDK. And really since then, we thought, okay, the Snow thing was cool, but like we thought this was a really bigger opportunity because not many people were really tackling it at that time. And we were just sort of, I'd say really head on with our vision of really bringing mainstream adoption.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Anything to add to maybe your stories, Aniket and Sachin?
Yeah, I can also probably start like prior to Biconomy what was happening. So yeah, as I think Ahmed already discussed, like I and Ahmed, we studied together back in China. So I did work for companies like Binance at early on stages, like when they were doing an ICO. So kind of interesting experience to see the growth happening over there. Then like moved back to India, and India was focusing mainly on the investment side of things. So helping out startups from India to actually. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Carl said he can't hear you very well. Maybe if you just want to speak up, Aniket.
Yeah. So yeah, came back to India 2018, and I'm helping many projects from India, like in terms of investments, in terms of doing some BD and stuff. And this is where I and Ahmed we always used to talk about things we want to do in the space. And met Sachin in one of the events in India. That's like our vision sort of aligned regarding things he wanted to do in the space and things I wanted to do. So as Ahmed said, like back in 2018 late, we all got together and we started Biconomy. And definitely the mission was to sort of drive the mainstream adoption, because we were like working with different protocols, investing in different teams, but we were not seeing any sort of adoption happening. And this is like how it got started, and we wanted to see all these applications and more users to come on board, and that was basically the entire sort of mission of starting Biconomy.
Gotcha. Cool. And then Sachin, I'll give you the last word on this question. If there's anything that was left out or omitted, happy to turn over to you.
So so I come from a technical background. So I have I did my engineering in computer science in 2012. And back then I worked in companies like Samsung and Make My Trip. That's one of the unicorns of India. So it's funny. In 2000, I think it was 2013. I was trying to mine Bitcoin. I saw a cool video on YouTube about this Bitcoin. I tried to mine Bitcoin. I tried to run a software on my PC, but of course, like nothing happened, and then I gave it up. And then again in 2017, again because there's this blockchain technology was coming up in the space, and being a developer, I started looking at from a technology point of view, and that's when I realized the full potential of this technology, and I decided to to quit my full-time working job, and then I was fully into the space, and, exploring the space from a technology point of view. And as Ahmed said, like back then, we started off with the Tezos mining. At that point in time, so everyone was experimenting around with some solutions in this space, but no one was actually building a proper solution for these Web3 developers. So that's when it strike to us that why not build a solution that other people can use. That's how we started Biconomy.
Awesome. Cool. So I mean, maybe we'll dive into a little bit about Biconomy and what you guys are building. I think Ahmed, you mentioned sort of the early days, thinking a lot about user experience and developer experience as well, as being kind of critical drivers here. A big piece behind your tech is kind of the idea of meta transactions, which I know you touched on a little bit as well. I guess maybe first question would be sort of like, how do meta transactions play into the kind of user experience, developer experience world? Mm-hmm. And what are some, like basically great example use cases that you can turn to otherwise improve the Web3 experience, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think really the core concept around, I always like to use this analogy of, whenever you watch a Netflix, video, Netflix doesn't really charge you their AWS bill, do they? right? So why do these decentralized applications charge at every point, you know, sort of a gas fee? Yeah, they don't go to sort of the dApps themselves, but they still go, they go to sort of the miners, which are basically sort of maintaining the dApp, as it were, right? And so, you know, whenever you look at sort of traditional Web2 applications, it's very seamless, it's very easy to use. There are no sort of headaches, you know, when you do any sort of transaction or any sort of interaction. The most you'd see is, do you confirm this? And then it's a yes or no, and then you just go on, right, with your life. So it's sort of, we've seen, and you know, there's been a lot of research that sort of goes in to show that, you know, the more steps you sort of put in, the more distracted your end user becomes, and then they drop off. I think it was, you know, during the height of CryptoKitties, MetaMask saw a 99% drop off rate for, you know, so that goes to show, you know, the complexities that new people have to deal with when it comes to onboard. And so really the idea behind meta transactions we really see is that, okay, you know, what we'll probably be seeing in the future is, all right, developers will be paying these gas fees on behalf of end users, but it might happen in a number of different ways. A, they subsidize it just outright. B, it might just be priced in already. So there might be a service that would potentially, you know, offer, and it's just priced in into whatever the customers are paying for. Or it could be sponsored by an ad, right? So you could see sort of Domino's Pizza as a GIF, you know, popping out saying they've sort of sponsored your transaction fee. And so we really see these that these are sort of three main ways as to, you know, how we see transaction fees being you know, played out in the long run. And so why is this important? Again, because if your end users are using your application, you'd want them to basically just have a very seamless experience, very frictionless experience. You don't want them to sort of confirm or approve a smart contract and then sort of pay gas again. You just want them to sort of sign once and that's it. And you're sort of good to go. And great use cases are basically any interaction you would want your users to have with chain. So it's essentially any interaction contract. So, you know, we've basically helped to power applications like Curve Finance, Idle Finance as well. And it's allowed users to deposit and use those products basically very easily and sort of free, right? They didn't have to pay gas. It's just sort of one-click experience, and they managed to basically use the application very easily. And so that's what we envisage, sort of a very easy to use and robust transaction experience for end users. We haven't even gone into like sort of dealing with like pending transactions and stuck transactions, but I guess we could go into that a bit later.
Yeah, I think we'll probably touch some of that for sure. Maybe even with this question, my next question. So I mean, I think one of the interesting things is, like you said, you know, the beginning of kind of the relationship here was built around sort of, you know, baking on Tezos and sort of proof of stake on Tezos, and which obviously is not Ethereum, right? And I think kind of one of the interesting things as well is that, you know, Biconomy, the tech is built in such a way that it is chain agnostic, right? So, you know, like obviously this is a service that can be helpful on any major blockchain, right? Who has the issue of needing to, you know, submit transactions and do so on behalf of other people and that kind of thing. So I guess kind of, you know, long way of saying, I guess, what was sort of the interest in making sure that you were staying kind of, you know, so agnostic from everywhere else? And are there any kind of trade-offs that you found that are associated with doing so, rather than say, you know, pairing one-to-one on the Ethereum network? I don't know who's best to answer.
Do you want to go ahead on this, or no? It's a good question. Yeah, go on.
So, you know, initially we started on Ethereum when we were, you know, building out the solution, and at that point in time, you know, gas fees were not that much high. You know, it was around 1 gigawatt gas price at that point in time. But you know, with the you know, when apps like CryptoKitties, you know, apps like those, you know, got involved in the system, then, you know, we got to know about like how an app could, you know, crash the whole blockchain, you know. And with the increase in demand, users are at that point in time, like crypto users are willing to pay like highest gas fees just to get their transaction involved. So on Ethereum, this gas price subsidizing this gas price is not actually a practical solution. Given the gas prices went really crazy in the last 2-3 months, when you saw this DeFi wave. But we believe in the long term, the gas prices would go down. And at that point in time, some layer 2 solutions were, there were some talks about these layer 2 coming up in the future, where they will reduce the gas cost, and they will increase the block creation, and decrease the block creation time. So that's when we realized, like, it's not just this level. We have to think into the future, and we have to be a blockchain agnostic right from day one, because it's not just about Ethereum, and in the future it's like gonna be mix of various chains with their advantage, their specific advantage. And you never know, like, where the whole community moves towards in the future. Right now, the biggest advantage of Ethereum is it has the composability right now. Everything is on Ethereum. But of course, like, in the future, I think layer 2 would be a great thing, given the gas prices we see on layer 1. That's when we decided, okay, let's build this infrastructure blockchain agnostic, so that when it comes to the whole community moving to a particular layer 2 or any other solution, we would be ready there also. So, and speaking of trade-off, uh, I didn't see any trade-off when we were building the system. It's just how modular, how scalable your architecture should be in order to support these multi-blockchain. I think that was the only challenge. I would not call it a trade-off in that sense. And Yeah, I mean, it's actually like being blockchain agnostic is actually good for us also. So and I don't see any trade-off in security also, because our system is trustless actually. You don't have to trust with your transaction data to us, because the all the you sign the transaction data in. We can't tamper with any of your data, and if we try to do it, the transaction would not pass on the blockchain. So, in terms of security, I would not say any trade-off. But only thing right now is the Biconomy is semi-centralized. So some would say you could censor the transactions. I think that's the only thing right now. But we are on the path of making it a decentralized solution tomorrow, but not right from day one. Uh, so I think we can talk a bit more about that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Just adding on to what Sachin said regarding the use cases, and also different chains that we are supporting. And like as Ahmed mentioned before, that wherever the transaction is, we see Biconomy playing a role. So like from the day one, we made sure that our system works with any like other blockchain as well. So currently, we are live on Ethereum, Matic, XDAI, and we're compatible with any other EVM change. And the best part about Biconomy is like to integrate with any EVM chain. It just takes like few hours of integration only. So we made the integration with Binance Smart Chain within a day. So the plan ahead is to support as many as EVM chain as possible, and have as many transactions as possible happening via Biconomy. And yeah, and this is like how we see the space evolving, and how Biconomy can be playing a part in not only Ethereum but any other blockchain out there.
Awesome. And I mean, since that, in a way you're blockchain agnostic and are sort of, sitting apart, is it currently possible, or is it maybe in the future plans to be able to like kind of relay transactions between these different chains in sort of like a more interop type way? Like, could I then, pay for an XDAI transaction with Ethereum or vice versa?
So this is something we are very excited about. Actually, this is part of the roadmap as well, and we're actually working on it to have interoperable transactions between different layer twos or different layer ones as well. Definitely, I think that the way we are thinking about it is firstly integrate with as many layer twos and layer ones as possible. So the easiest way possible to go to market strategy is to integrate more layer twos and EVM based chains. So as I already said, like XN Matic is already integrated, and we are like looking at other layer 2 solutions as well. Talking of layer 1, Tezos is something we're working closely with, and we are planning to support our take on Tezos as well in the next couple of months. So once we have transactions being delayed on all these blockchains, then definitely the next step ahead is how we can have interoperable transactions and how we can sort of interact the two layers together. So this is something really excited about, and already like we have a couple of plans on how we're gonna do things.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to that, I mean, we are sort of, I would say, doing a part of that already, where we're sort of like for example, we're supporting this application on layer 2, which is running on XDAI. But what's interesting is that, if you're basically a user on MetaMask, you don't need to change sort of the RPC or anything to sort of the XDAI chain. And so you could just really sign from Ethereum, and basically the transactions happen in the background via so that's pretty cool, and that's, I'd say that is let's say a current way of how we're trying to sort of play about in this interoperability game before we sort of go on to do sort of, let's say, from XDAI to other chains, or from Ethereum to other chains as well. But we'll see. I mean, we're also speaking to other like you have the concept of you have the Binance Smart Chain as well, which have their own sort of relay concept as well, which is really interesting. So this is a very sort of nascent space which we're sort of continuously exploring, and which we're actively a part of.
I love it. No, it's like a really cool. I think the future space, I think it's just a very interesting space. It's kind of like the idea of, like, in a way, like kind of weaving fabric together. I think you guys get to be the piece of string that brings it all together, which I think would be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So I want to just note for everybody else in the chat that if you do have any questions, feel free to either raise your hand or ask them directly in the chat, and we'll be sure to bring them up. So yeah, so I guess, thinking about the tech that you've created so far, I guess basically, big question that I normally ask people is, if you were kind of at this event hacking as a creator, as a hacker, what would you probably be building right now? Like, what is sort of the, maybe thinking about sort of the technology that you've built and what it enables, what would sort of be some of the exciting use cases that you would want to try out, I guess, on your own tech, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I would say, I mean, what's interesting is because, the way we built our tech is that it could basically support any general transaction, whatever the use case. So we haven't really built it for a particular type of, let's say, use case. But I would mainly say that, what would be really interesting are for use cases which are very, let's say, customer centric, end user focused, where we'd see, I mean, whatever the use case, whether it's an NFT use case, whether it's a DeFi use case, specifically for end users, where there's just sort of a very, very clean UX around the actual use case of the application, I would say. So, something that's very smooth and slick and sort of just doesn't really annoy the end user with extra complicated steps is something that, we'd like to see. And basically, this is what we think is going to be the norm, right, in the next couple of years. So yeah. I mean, Sachin, Aniket, I'm sure you guys have other ideas.
Like if you look at the current market situation, I would definitely want to work something on the gaming aspect, because as per the current market situation and being an application maybe on some layer 2, I think our tech works perfectly over there. And already we have seen like many of our clients in the gaming industry using us, and what sort of value Biconomy can add to the user experience after integration. So gaming application where they see frequent interactions of users on chain, and to remove the friction point, definitely Biconomy plays a very important part. So I would have definitely built something over there.
Yeah, I'm also like more inclined to seeing more cool games that have really a slick user experience. That is something we enable, because prior to Biconomy, if you're building a game, for the end user, for normal gamer who doesn't, know what exactly a ether is, what exactly a gas is, you can't see any adoption on this for these games on the blockchain. But right now, if you have a very cool idea, you could really, build it out on blockchain without worrying about these, complexities. And that's what we abstract away from the end user. That's what our solution does. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm in the same vein. I'm still waiting for the amazing like Diablo MMO type clone game that works perfectly. NFTs as kind of a first class citizen. It's coming, but I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I think I'd be hacking on the same thing. Awesome. And then I guess like we talked about sort of the interoperability piece of maybe being one of the future projects or things that overlap with Biconomy. Anything else that you can tell us that is like in the pipeline that you're thinking about, or projects that you're actively working on? I guess basically weird way of saying what's next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's something, we're working on actively, and, we will be rolling out in a couple of weeks from now is the forwarder contract. So what it enables is, it enables the end users to pay fees and ERC20 tokens, so this is another, something cool and very exciting, product feature that we are planning to roll out, because of course, let's say you're holding a lot of synthetics or compound and not having ethers, you would want to pay fees in synth or compound while using the platform. So this is something also we can enable, and something, we do see like a lot of demand in the market. And I think the initial sort of preliminary test has been done, and we are very excited to probably launch it in a couple of weeks to make sure like the end users, we provide more convenience to the end users to pay transaction fees, not only in Ethereum, but maybe in some stable coins or some ERC20 tokens. So yeah, this is another exciting product feature that will be rolling out soon.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, yeah, for people who either don't have ETH, or either on purpose or by accident, it's certainly very frustrating to get to your wallet and realize you can't do anything. So yeah, no, I can totally see that being, a really valuable use case.
And
so
yeah,
awesome.
and one more thing, like it's good for these dApps who does not want to subsidize these gas costs for their end user. It's really good use case for those also. So that the burden is not on the dApp developer also. End user gets to pay the gas fees, but at the same time he doesn't have to accrue or accrue all the ether, all the gas specific to that particular blockchain. So it's everyone is happy. dApp developer don't have to subsidize the fees from his pocket, and end user also gets to use the app by just paying in the token the user have. So yeah.
Awesome. And then of course I can see this being even more powerful when paired with the feature of being able to have interops between different chains and that kind of thing. Of course, it just kind of like n times n's the search space of things you can do basically. So
yeah,
that's really cool. Awesome. Yeah. Great. Well, let's see if there's any audience questions. There is one, but I'm not sure if you're interested. I'm not sure if it's totally related to your project or not. So maybe we can skip that one.
That is $1 billion question. I mean,
it is $1 billion question. Yeah. So I'll state the question.
Multiple companies working on this, and many different answers to this. My first, actually, it's funny because because I first started off as a researcher in blockchain. And hello.
Yep, you're back.
Got cut off again.
Oh, you got
I'm back. I think I'm back now. Yeah.
Yep.
I was saying, I was saying in 2016 was sort of when I got into this space, and the first research topic I took up was actually identity, and that has pretty much sort of I'd say at least it's pretty much evolved over these couple of years. You've got even newer companies, different people thinking about many different things in identity. And to be honest, do you really need blockchain for identity is also a separate question. So there are more questions than answers when it comes to this. Yeah,
it's definitely a big topic, which I think is outside of the scope of what you guys are working on. But like you said, there's a lot of people that are working on that problem right now. And There's like huge consortiums even that are
Yeah.
trying to tackle it. So it is literally a $1 billion question.
Yeah, but it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen.
Totally. Totally.
We don't know when.
Awesome. All right. Well, it looks like maybe we'll wrap up here. Thank you so much for taking the time, all three of you, to chat with us. Really, again, thank you for taking part in the event, both here and both sponsoring as Biconomy. Of course, for anyone who's looking to build with the UX as a central pillar of your tech, or really in kind of any way to make your app not a Web3 app in usability, take a look at what they're building and take a look at using Biconomy in your hack. Of course, if it's a user-facing thing, then you really owe it to your users to take a look. So I'd strongly recommend it. And of course, they have prizes for integration and all that stuff. So yeah, so I guess with that being said, thanks again. Really enjoyed this conversation, and catch everybody on Discord.
Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Thanks,
Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob. Thank you.
Everybody.
Yeah. Hey guys, bye.